Oisches. So here, the Rebbe is going to explain the second question in the Gemara that the Anshe Alexandria asked. So what was it? Ches. Ben Shunamis Mahu Sheyitami. Does this Ben of the Shunamis, does he metame? Can he be metame? What is the question? Do is the shaila? Nor mitzadem inyan from siluk haneshama. It's only a question within the fact. How do we treat the fact that the soul left? Mitzad haguf is doch shayich tuma. From the body's perspective, over there it applies tuma. Weil she's nit nisbalbelo surose, because the shape has not been confused; it's still full shaped. So you have from the body is there, the body of the Ben Shunamis. Und is euch begeder misa, and it's not like the Nitziv Melech, which misa doesn't apply to it. This body is in the definition of misa, as he responded to them, that mace is metame, not Nitziv Melech. The shaila is ober mitzat siluk hachayus. The question, however, is about the life force that has been removed. See the tumah mitzad dem frir dikun siluk is batul gevon. Whether the impurity that took place because of the previous removal of chayus has been nullified. Ibald as hot shoin zurig dem chayus und lebt. Now he has back an energy and he lives. So how do we deal with the previous chayus that has left? Should we say it's no longer left because he got it back? Oder die Tumah is verblieben euch später, or we should say that the tumah remains later, trotzdem was is wieder achai. Notwithstanding that now he's achai again, but because there was a while that he was chayis left him, maybe that keeps the tumah in the body. Ubiyur hadom. And the Rebbe explains this. And now the Rebbe will explain the difference between Elisha and Eliyahu. Eliyahu returned the life of the child back to it. But by Elisha, he brought a new life to the child, as the Rebbe learns from the Pesukim. And the question is, does the new life, if you bring back the old life by Eliyahu, that's not a question. Then, of course, there's no more Siluk Chayis because he's alive again. But the question is, when the life force was removed and we brought in a new life force, like what Elisha gave the child to the Ben Hashunamis, does that take away the previous Siluk Achayis, which causes tumor? Explaining this matter. In an Oifim Vazoy Elisha Mechayiv and the Ben Hashunamis. What is the way that Elisha revived, gave life back to the Ben Hashunamis? Zog der Posik, the Posik states, Vayal, he went up, Vayishkav al Hayeled, he lay on the child. Vayosem Piv al Piv, he put his mouth over the mouth of the child, of the Ben Hashunamis. Ve'enov al Enov, and his eyes and his eyes. V'kapav al Kapav, and his hands and his hands. Vayighar Olov. Vayochem B'sara, he gave the word Vayighar, but he gave him from his inside. Vayochem B'sara Yishal Yelad. And the child's flesh warmed up. Vayizoyrer hanar atsheva pa'omim. Vayikta hanar eseinov. So we see that what took place over here was from them is muchach as nit seine eigene chayes hat sich umgekehrt zum Yalid. It wasn't the vitality of the child himself that returned to the child. Nor Elisha hat ihm reingegeben, but rather Elisha gave him a nayin chayes, a new life. From the chayes from Elisha, that was Elisha's life. Der Mit ist verstandig. Now with this we understand. Why didn't ask about the tzorfis was Eliyahu of it, which Eliyahu vitalized. But Dorten had doch Eliyahu gebeten, over there he requested Eliyahu, Toshiv no nefesh hayeled hazeh al kilvei. Let the soul of this child return back to his inside. Vayishma Hashem b'kol Eliyahu, and Hashem listened to the voice, to the prayers of Eliyahu. Toshiv nefesh hayeled al kilvei vayechi, and his soul returned to him in the inside, and he revived him. So since the nefesh of the soul of the child returned, is der mitbottel geworden der freirdiker siluk haneshama. So that way, the previous removal of the soul was negated. So it's not metame, so it was removed and it was brought back. By benoshel shunami sober, but in the case of the son of the shunamis, since his soul did not return to him, that soul remained separated from the body. The question is, should the child, the Ben HaShunamis, should he be metame? Tzidar geder from siluk haneshama is chal oif haguf b'tanayin chayis. So do we have this definition of removal of the soul would apply to a body that has a new vitality, but the old one is gone? Or there is verduch dan bottle, or through the acquisition of a new chayis, Elisha's chayis, it becomes bottle. That was the question that the Anshe Alexandria asked the second question to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Amar lahem, so what did Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya tell them? Meis metame ve'en chay metame. It says a living thing, a living person is not metame. It doesn't matter. A mace is metame and a chay is not metame. Choch azayin neshama hot sich zum nit umgekehrt, although that his soul did not return to him, it's not metame. The alle gedorim v'hasboris in Tumas Meis, the old definition, explanation in a Tumas Meis, which is Siluk HaNeshama, Guf Meis Chulu, the removal of the soul, the body is dead. Zaneshayich Norbish as the Guf is Meis B'Poil. They only apply when there is a body which is in actuality Meis. Oib aber is Chai, but if he is alive, Choch Afri is a given a Meis. Doesn't matter, although he was previous dead, but now he's alive, he's a nit metame. He's not metame. Val chayis is mevatel u'metayr from tumas meis. Energy, vitality negates, takes away, and it purifies from tumas meis. And for that reason is euch die zweite shaila an inyan von divrei buris. This is also empty words. This second question. The Gemara says Gimel Divrei Buris. So this is the second. What's also Divrei Buris? It's not the Asofik Homdok in Ordit. The sides of doubt, the questions, do not have any space over here. There's no question. Whilst is nitolui in them, because this does not hinge on Sidar Siluk HaNeshama Nimshach, whether it continues the removal of the soul, or their bottle, or it is negated because it's returned back, or here we're only interested in the situation, the standing of the guf presently. The klal as ein chai metame. Chai is not metame. That's all we need to know. Since in reality he's living, is nitshayich erzol zayin tomei umetame betumas meis. So then it doesn't really apply that he should be tomei and he should be metame betumas meis, because he's alive now, and therefore it's divrei buris. There's no question. The Rebbe explains. So what happened to the tumah when the chayis was nistalik? So it was tamei. How does it with the new chayis? What happened to the tamei? And the Rebbe explains that actually the meis atzma was never tamei. The issue is only as far as being metame, because this whole idea is a gzeirus hakosuv tamei and tarer, and therefore it's not a problem. The mace itself is not tamei. B'gzeirus hakosuv, only it's metame, and therefore, in this case, we're saying that once it's a chayis, then it's not metame. Test. If them came in over fragrant, on this we can actually ask, however, zayin the kameis, when he was dead, is doch the zalbeguf given tamei. So that body was tamei. Unoch als avi avisa tumah. It was like the father of Tuma. One that touches becomes an Ava Tuma. So the mace is Avi Avesa Tuma. So how is the impurity disappeared from the body? As the Gemara uses the language, Tuma, where did it leave? Where did it go? This is understood based on what we learned in the Yalkut earlier. Only the one that touches the mace, but the mace itself is not tomei. Because the faris oich benoshel tsunamis tomei toher. That's why also the son of the tsunamis is toher, because the mace atzma in the toher, and that's the noshel tsunamis toher. We don't find that there should be a disagreement in it. Who's talking to me then? Why is this not? In other words, they suggested, and Rabbi Shua ben Chananya went along with them. So it's not metame. Once they're talking to me in them, there's no surprise. The Torah decrees that a mace is tamei. There's as the Psikta says, it's not that the mace defiles, it's not the water that pure make clean. It's a decree of the King of Kings. Alpizei's move on, based on this we understand, was the Shaila Baben Hashunamis is given Mahu Sheyitame. The second they asked the question, should the son of Shinamis Tame? Not the question whether the Ben is Tame. Nitzer Alain is Tame, not whether he himself is Tame. Nazoizech the Loshin that Tshuva for Yeshua ben Chananya. Also, Yeshua when he answers, he also says, Meis Metame, Vein Chai Metame. And Yoy says the Shakla V'tari is given because the whole question was, says, Leik Tzechai Ben Hashinamis, den din von Tumas Meis zu mitzam sein at zweiten mitzagzeres hakosim. Whether it applies to him, the question that we're having, the siluk achayis, does it make him tomei? Not for make him tomei for himself. Only the question is whether he would make tomei others, but he himself is not tomei because a mace. Atzma is not mace, the mace itself does not become tamei. In Eish Yud, the Rebbe explains the third question of the Anshe Alexandria. So the question was, Meisim la'osid lavoi, tzrichim azor shlishi ushvi, or ain't tzrichim. So that the Meisim, in the future, do they require the sprinkling of the third and the seventh day as Tumas Meis, so they don't. Doi is nicht gewend the Shaile, sie seinen mitame at zweiten betumas Meis. So there was no question over here whether they can defile somebody else betumas Meis, because that was already answered before. He already answered before. Meis mitame ve'ein chai mitame. That person mitame, not a living person. Ein chai mitame. Noch mehr. Even more. Afilu loydis svore in zer zweiter shaila. Even according to the idea in the second question, what was the idea? Mitzad aneshama chadosha by ben hashunamis. That because of the new soul by the ben hashunamis, zane de meisim losid lovei nit tomei, they are not going to be tomei. Because we said if there's a new soul, there might be an idea that they should be tomei. That's why we had the question. But losid lovei, there's no question over there, because over there it's like by Eliyahu, in which the previous soul is being brought back. And the Rebbe said by Eliyahu, there was no question. Because when the previous soul comes back, so it's definitely Mavatal the Tumah, so it's not Tomei. So Bechlal only amazes Tamah, Chai is not Matame, but there's not even a svar in this case. So Zayin the Mason lost love in the Tomei. From the Eberster kehrt doch the Zelben Neshama zum Guf. The Eberster gives back the same soul to the body. The Gemara sagt, as the Gemara says, Maybe Neshama, Bezerka beguf, he brings a soul, throws into the body, and he judges them together, which means Hashem brings that soul with the body, those who did the sin, and he judges them together. That means that it's not a different soul. So therefore, that removal of the neshama that made him Tomei is gone because he's back, resurrected, and now, so there's no issue. So what is the issue? So no issue is, and the issue is the new body touching the old body. The Shaila Do is not given wie Meforshim sagen, as Meforshim say, where the question is, whether they themselves are Tomei, those who are resurrected because they touched a dead body. In Zeregenem Guf, they touched their own body. The Neguya from Guf Achai, that is the touching of the living body in Guf HaMeis B'shas HaTchiyah, in the body of the dead at the time of the Tchiyah. And what's the question? Did they touch a dead body? The Shaila is, do they need to sprinkle the third and the seventh, or they don't need? See, Tumas Maga Meis is not when at when we talk about touching a mace, is it when somebody else touches the mace? But you touch on yourself, your own dead body that was dead, and now you're alive. Or the Tumas Magi is Shaykh or do we say that the tum of touching can also be applied when you touch yourself? Yes, Leimar, and the Rebbe says we can say, as the suffix is totally basvore, that this doubt hinges on the svore, bazoivet zayin, der ofen hatchila. How the resurrection is going to take place. Is it going to be something new? Or is it going to be a of the past? Something new, then the new is touching the old. But it's the old that is coming back, then it's the same, then it doesn't really touch. Aleph. We can say, we should say that something from the previous existence is going to remain. Or was going to have addition, renewal in the building of the body. But in that way, is faran the negia in achelik for naguf meis. So then you are partially touching in a part of a dead body. Und der the meisim lost lovei, davon haben hazor. That's why In that case, the Mesim in the future will need Hazor because they will be touching their body. Beis or other Tchias HaMesim mit Zainen an Eifun von Ischatschus Agub B'chol HaProtim. Tchias HaMesim means that the renewal of the body be a totally new body. As wird gar nicht bleiben vom Guf, nothing will remain from the body from its first existence. Und damals ist ein Tzrichen Hazor, then they don't require Hazor. Was in the Toke Negia, in a Metzias von a Metz, was is Metame, there's nothing to touch in a Metz that Metame because there's nothing left, there's something new, a totally new body, so it didn't touch the old one. The Riber, haben sie gefragt beloschen, and that's why they use the language Tzrichim Hazor or Einen Tzrichim. They didn't say under Agdon from Mahu she eats Tzrachos. Tzrichim Hazor. So zum Ramazan, they were hinting that there's a nitkin sofik in din. Not Mahu, what is the halacha? For Magabatzme. In other words, touching yourself would definitely become Tameh. Question is, are they touching themselves? Or there's nothing else to touch it because it's all gone. The Shah is an Amitziyah. Question is a fact, factual. See the Tchi vet zayin ba'ofen, whether the Tchi will be in a way goes with Mechayv's sign, Zeh Hazor. Is it going to be in a way that it's going to obligate them to sprinkle? Or they're nit. So it's not a mahu. It's not a question of what. It's not the din, but the question is what is going to be the status? How is the return going to be? And that way, is there going to be a maga or not a maga? In Oish Yud Aleph, the Rebbe will continue to articulate, to bring an example from Halacha in the Mishnah, in which we see that if the keli is totally broken, then there's no tumas maga. If, however, the keli is still a little there, then there is maga. Basically, it means that if the body is totally gone, then there is no tumas maga. If there's a little bit of the body left, then there could be maga. The Rebbe is also going to bring the two ways Chiyas HaMesim is going to be, whether we compare it, the Gemara in Sanhedrin is going to bring down, to creating something from water or teeth, which means that some of the body is left, so there is maga. Or it's like glass, which nothing is left. Look inside. This is like very deep and very detailed, and we need to understand what the Rebbe is saying over here in Oish Yud Aleph. The Proteus Yoiser in more detail, but the Inyan Vere Mevur, this idea will be explained later Mishnah in Kelim, according to the Mishnah in Kelim. So we're going to learn just right now the Mishnah in Kelim, in which we're going to see when we can say Tumas Maga or not. So over there we're talking about Mita Shahoisot Tmeya Medras, a bed that had a Tumas Medras. Medras means you had a Tomedik, a person, a Zov sleeping on it. So that bed became a Tumeya Medras, or other ways. But Tumas Medras is a more severe Tuma if a item, a bed, becomes Tumah because the Zav lied on it, sat on it. That's called the Tumas Medras. A Tumah that touches a medras is not such a strong level of tumah. So we have a bed here, a mita shahoisa tmeya medras. Now, in order for it to be tumah medras, it has to be a keli. What happens if the bed breaks? So there's no, so then the tumas medras would disappear. If you rebuilt it, it's a new bed, and the previous tumah is gone because it's no longer the bed. So the Mishnah says like this: what happens? Nishbara arucha. So there's two long of the bed that hold the bed together, So one of the arucha, one of the long beams is broken. So at that time it was broken. The whole bed is not yet broken because there's another side of the bed. There's two aruchas to the bed. So one side is broken. And then vitikno. And then he fixed it. So the whole bed was never broken, only one side. So the bed is still Tmei Medras. It still remains Tmei Medras. Still as before, it was Tmei Medras, remained. And the reason is, because the other thing is holding together the bed. The other long pole that is along the bed is still there. So therefore, it's still the bed here, and it's still Tmei Medras. What happens after the first one broke and he fixed it? The second one broke, Nishbara Shniya, Vitikna, and he fixes it, the second one. So now, even though he fixed one, but the other one now is broken. So yeah, basically both beds were broken. There's two new poles here. Okay, one was there at the time. So tikna, toida min ha-medras. It's going to be not anymore Tomei Medras. Why? The ponim chadosh is bo lekab. Now we have a new bed over here because both beds were fixed. And therefore, it's Toher Medras. Abel Tomei Maga Medras. But this bed is Tomei because it touched a Medras, which means, while the erste Naye Arucha, the first new Arucha that he replaced, that he fixed, but ongerir the mitav as is given Tmei Medras. It touched the bed was still Tmei Medras because at that point the second pole was still there. So it touched it, so it becomes Tmei. So you see it becomes Tmei Medras. That is if it touched it while there was still Tmei Medras. What happens if both pieces break? So then there's no Tumas Medras at all, there's no Maga Medras. He didn't get a chance to fix the first one until the second one broke. So now he has a broken bed, both sides. Toira, I feel for Maga Medras. Now it's Toira, even it's not considered Maga Medras. What does this mean? Das heißt, if der Tikkun HaKli is given, if the fixing of the vessel is given b'shas der andere chelik from Kli is Kayim, is when the other part of the vessel is in existence, you fixed it, is Dotumas Maga. Think about Tikkun Kli like the new body versus what's left from the old one. So if there is a part of the Kli is Kayim, then we say there's Tumas Maga, then there's a Tumas Maga. But if it comes when the entire clay was broken, which means the body in the example was totally gone, is the talking Tumas Maga? Then there is no Tumas Maga. So basically, you see that in order to be Tumas Maga, there has to be something left from the previous. Now, what happens by Tchiyas HaMesim? Is there something left from the previous body or not? So the Rebbe wants to, this hinges on the Gemara Sanhedrin. In Sanhedrin, Zog the Gemara, in Sanhedrin, the Gemara says, Amalei Kesel Rabbi Gamliel. So the Kesel says to Rabbi Gamliel, he was starting up to Rabbi Gamliel, he says, Amritu de Shich V'chai. You say that the one who died will live. They turn to dust in the earth. But they turned into dust, into earth. Does Afra then, how could dust live? How could you say that the people are going to live? Amrale Brate. So the daughter of the Keser said to Rabbi Gamliel, Shafke, don't bother with answering him. Leave him alone. I'm going to respond to my father, to the Keser, for his argument. He says, we have two craftspeople in our city. One can create from water, V'echad yoytzer min hatit. And one creates from mortar. Water doesn't have any substance to it. It's just water. This has already mortar. So who is a greater craftsman? Which one is more praiseworthy? So the king says to his daughter, if you can create from water. So the daughter said, if the Eibishter can form from the water, shape from the water, so minatit like again. So from the offer with water, there's going to miss, so he can make them alive. That was her answer. They say different. So here you still have tit, you have mayim. Shmuel says that it's a foratory from, see how a glass, a keli of glass. That even a glassware whose effort is the blow, the ear of a bosser v'adam, a human being blows, makes the glass. Nishbru yeshlam takona. If they break, you can fix them. So human being who is with the ruach piv, the ruach of Hashem, for sure they can be fixed. If glass can be fixed, so the person can be fixed. And the Rebbe says these two answers are basically giving us the idea of where the person is being created from. Is he being created from nothing, because there's like glass totally broken, or from mayim or tit where there is something? And therefore it makes a difference. The maga, whether you're touching something, whether you can become tamim. As dit zwei dugmois beyurim, that these two examples and explanation that in derech hatchia, they express the two ways in the way the resurrection is going to be taking place. Is it in a way that he's going to form it, shape it from water or tit? Is choch as der din tumas meis from koidim atchia is donito. Although there is no din of tchis amesim, because we're not going to say that this is really tumas meis. It's not here. Borum legabi dem zokmen. We say there's a totally new thing over here. It's not that same body. But they're still touching. You can still say. Like we learned in the Mishnah, was from them is that he shapes the body from something that was left over. From the Mishnah in Kalim, similar to the second case, the Mishnah of Kalim, in which the arucha was there before the second one broke. You fixed it, so something there's too much magas medrus. But midem was dveira bishmol for gleichnes to kleis chuchis and nishbru. But from the fact that dveira bishmol they compare it to glassware that was broken is the kavone. So what he's trying to say is that's what klam with kishayches to the friedik mitzis. He has no connection to the previous. Warum ba kleis chuchis der din? Because by glassware is the halacha as durch nishbru, when they're broken, werden ze ois kli, they are no longer a keli. Und eben sie seine gewinn tome, werden ze torle gamri. If they were tome, they're torle gamri, because breaking glass meaning that there's nothing left from before. Al derech ze b'tchis hamesim. Similarly by the tchis hamesim. As the tchia is beofen, wie man macht an aye kleli von klis chuchish nivro, that the tchia takes place like creating a new vessel from broken glass. Was haben kein Scheiches nicht zu der ersten Metzies, they are not connected to the first existence, the first. Und Mele is if the neue Metzies von Guf, the Scheich ketzumas mitzad maga b'mei. So then, because the new existence of the body, what is after the tchia, there is no tumah from touching the mace, just like we learned with the letzter fall in the Mishnah by Tumas Medres. In the last case, when both of them were broken, there's no more bed over there, so there is no more body there, so there's nothing to touch. Und damit ist ein Tzrich Mazor, then they don't need Hazor. Und according to this, we understand was Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya hat sich geantwortet. What did Yeshua Chananya answer them? When they will be resurrected, then we will be wise for them. When it's going to be Tchis HaMesim, then you will know how the way of the Tchi will be. It's going to be like from water or mortar, or it's going to be like from glass. And the din, then we'll know the din clearly, because we're going to do by what the if it's coming from an existing, then there is maga there. If it's like glass, then there is no maga there. In Oishud Beis, the Rebbe explains the Ikud Amri after the third question, that there's another opinion. The Rebbe will explain that this is not talking in general about Chiyas HaMeisim. In general, Chiyas HaMeisim, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya's opinion is that there is going to be maga because there is something left over. The question becomes Meisim Midbar in particular. What's the status of the Meisim Midbar? Because as the Rebbe will explain, that it's possibly, according to the Akiva, that there were nothing going to be left from them. The Rebbe explains the Gemara that not even the Etzem lose. Therefore, over there the question becomes: is there Tumas Maga touching something that is still in existence? Let's look inside your base. Others say when Moshe will come with them. Leuten Ikodamri, according to Ikodamri, is the Shaila nid given of Klolus Chiyas HaMeisim B'Losit. The question that the Alexandria asked was not in the general what is going to happen. Are the people who getting up Chiyas HaMeisim need Hazor from Tumas Meiz B'Losit? Val Reb Yeshua ben Chananya Haldoch, because he's of the opinion that they're going to be resurrected durch Boine Zayin dem Guf Luz Shel Shidra. That they're going to be built from the body, that there's a luz, the etzem luz, there's a bone in the spine, that they're going to be rebuilt. So there's never going to be totally lost. So there would be Tumas Maga. The Mele is borur, therefore it's clear. As by Zay is do Tumas Maga b'meis kidul come on, by Zay there is Tumas Maga b'meis as later on. Nor, their suffix is b'shaychas the Pchidul Osit from the Meis Midbar B'frat. The question is how it relates to Tchia of the Meis Midbar, specifically those who died in the Midbar. Why is there a question about them? The Bir Paseh. The Gedera Midbar is da Machlokes. There's a Machlokes about the Gedera Midbar. Rabbi Akiva zogt ein lahem chelik leilam haba. They don't have a part in leilam haba. Basically, seems like they'll not be resurrected. Und Rabbi Eliezer halt, as yesh lam chelik leilam haba. They will be resurrected. Und von dem, was Rabbi hat sie gesehen, shoichvim v'nirim kishuye yaim. He told them, as the Gemara says in the Gemara of Basra, that he saw them lying and they appeared like they drank wine, is mashma v'das Rabbi Eliezer, that their bodies are going to be yesh lam chelik leilam haba. Their bodies did not disintegrate. He saw them shoichvim v'nirim kishuye yaim, the Meis Midbar. So, we're going to explain now what the Rabbi Akiva means when he says that even according to him, there is something left. Let's say, generally, how is Tchiyas HaMeisim taking place? We find two opinions. As the Tchiyah wird sein von Etzem Luz, that it's going to come from the loose bone, was wird kemol nit nifsad, which is never lost. Und of this, the pasuk says yichyu misacha, or nit yivra, that they will resurrect, they'll become alive again and not created because nothing new. Because the way the resurrection will be, not by creating an entirely new body, nor der Guf et nivne werden from the etzem lu, but rather that the body will be built from the bone of luz. And base, the number two option is via state in Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer. It says in Pirkei Einim ishtayir min haguf, that nothing is left of the body elo kimoli tarvid rokov, like the field of the tarvid, the measurement of rotten remains. Umis arid ba'ofar ha'oretz, and that gets mixed in the tarvid rokov, like mixed in the sand of the earth, kisoir, just like the sour dough. Shumis arid bi'isuchula mixes into the dough. So based on this, we can say those was Rabbi Akiva zokt. When Rabbi Akiva says, "As the dir hamidbar ein lahem chilek lo'olam haba," they don't have a part that will come. Is the makuven? What it means to say, as from zeh the gufen, but the bleiben kemetzius, that their bodies will be nothing remain, no remains. Was vet aufgelebt werden lo'olam haba. He says that nothing is going to be. In other words, they are not going to be, because nothing will be left from them. But also the letzem lose is lost. It's not going to be yichyu meisach. But after they become a tarvid of rot, they'll also get up to tchisa meisach. Which basically means it's not going to be them. It's going to be the rot that has mixed into the earth. So this itself consisted the question. How is the resurrection of the dead of the Midbar going to take place? Whether it's going to be in a way as for Mitzias Aguf, that from the body existent, at least there will remain the loose bone. There will be a bone loose. Under far, tzrichim hazor, like the opinion that the Meisim Midbar, like Rabbi Lezer, the etzem loose is going to remain. The far tzrichim hazor, because it's born etzem kisoyre is metame b'maga. Because even if you have a bone, which is the size of a barley, it can be metame b'maga. So if there's an etzem loose, so there's going to be metame. This is eine tome machs negibe gufes v'atzman, and the tumor comes because they touch themselves. Aber if the bleiben nor tarvid rokiv, but if there's only going to be a tarvid like Rabbi Akiva, like we talked about Rabbi Akiva, the amud is ein tzrichim hazor. Then they will not need the hazor. But tarvid rokiv is not metame b'maga. Tarvid rokiv cannot be metame b'maga. Nor be'oil. First of all, it's only in oil. And I feel be'oil. Even in the oil, there are many conditions. When there is metame, when it could be metame, she cover orum shel shaish, buried naked in a marble coffin or shel zchuch or glass gates. Should be all there. So it's not metame b'maga. Therefore, that was the question according to the Ikad Amri. In Oishud Gimel, the Rebbe explains. The answer of Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya to this last question about the Meise Midbar. Und auf dem hat sie geantwortet. This is what he answered. Moshe Rabbeinu imor. That Moshe Rabbeinu comes with them. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu comes with the Meise Midbar, according to this last question, that proves the fact that the Tzrichim Hazor, if he comes with them, because that means that there is the Etzem Luz, and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be Neshama B'Guf together with them. Let's look inside. When them hat ze geantwortet, and this is on this he answered them. The answer Alexander Moshe Rabbi Shimon Hananya. Moshe Rabbeinu imohem, when Moshe Rabbeinu will come with them. Und der Hasbara bazeh. What is the explanation? Steht in Tanchume beParsha Seinu. The Tanchume in our parsha, it says like this, that Moshe Rabbeinu will actually go together with the Bnei Yisrael, to be together with them, be resurrected together with the Mesa Midbar. It says there, Moshe Lamah Dover Doime. What can this be compared to the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu remained in the Midbar, did not go into Eretz Yisrael? Was one shepherd. He goes out to be a shepherd of the sheep of the king. And the sheep got captured. So Bikesh Haroye, so the shepherd wanted Lekonos Lepatan Shamalach. He wanted to go into the palace. Moshe wants to go to Eretz Yisrael. Amalei Hamelech, Yemru Sha'atu Ish Beisa Hatzoy. If you go into the Paltam Shamalach, we're going to say that you're the ones that caused you captured the Tzoy. Avkach, so likewise, Amalek Kodesh Baruch Hu Moshe, Shem says to Moshe, Shivchacha Hu is your praise. You took out 600,000. You buried them in the midbar. And now you are bringing in another generation. So now people will say, that the Mesa Midbar don't have a portion in the world to come. Be in their trouble. They were buried, Mesa Midbar, and come with them. For them is verstandig, as a Yos Moshe Rabbeinu is given the reign Shal Yisrael. Since Moshe was the shepherd of the Vizei, the Ramabos and the Shamas as they are souls in their body, was the Ribber is durch Moshe Rabbeinu given. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu through him, not only the spiritual flows, the sinas HaTorah, but those it also was given souls and bodies, but at least that was spiritual thing. But even the very physical, the physical flows, be Mon as Mon, the wall of Miriam and the clouds of glory. They also came back with Chus Shemais, so which means all the physical needs were taken care of Moshe too. So we're saying that he too will have to return together with the Der Hamidbar, souls as they are in bodies, because that was Tiyah B'Tzara V'Tova Yimohem. You have to come with them, the way he was a shepherd of them in the physical as well. And that's what Rabbi Yeshua Chananya answered. When Moshe Rabbeinu comes with them, as Moshe Rabbeinu Yova Imohem, Moshe Rabbeinu comes with them. Because the fun wird sein muchach. From this will be evident that yesh lam chelik le'elam habo. The Moshe, they will get a portion of the world to come, just as Moshe. Hastes, so that means, as the Tchiyah wird sein from the seas guforishin, that it will be from the first existence, etzem luz. Ubemela. Wenn sie doch dann davon haben Azor, then they will need Azor. Und oi Moshe Rabbeinu, so the Shava of Moshe Rabbeinu, oi Moshe Rabbeinu wird mit sich nicht kommen. He's not going to come, he's doch dos der Fahr. Why is he not going to come? Was ein lam chelik lam abo. It's because they don't have a partner on abo. And the Tchiyah wird sein von Tarvet Rakav. It's going to be from the Tarvet Rakav. That will say sich Azor, then they don't need Azor. Either way, they're going to get up through the Tarvet Rakav or through that's the Metzias. But if they come with Moshe, that means that they had some lose. The Shamas Begufim, they come back and then they need hazor. But if it's Tamid Rakev, then they don't need hazor. In Ois Yudalet, the Rebbe explains now the beginning of the Sikha, the words of the Yalkut. Apizeyesh levayer oich, the Mechidush in Divrei Yalkut bepashtus, the novelty in the words of the Yalkut bepashtus. We asked before, what is the Chiddush in the second din that the Ben Shunamis is not Tomei? What are we trying? Because the Rebbe is going to answer the Chiddush that he did not become Tomei from himself, the fact that he was Negeya in his previous, when he was Mace. So based on this, we can explain the novelty in the word Yaakov Pashtus. The rest of Limud, what he's teaching us, is Negeya b'meis Tomei and Ein Meis Atzmi Tomei. Just touching the Meis Tomei is telling you that there's a Gzeres HaKosuv, that the Meis itself is not Tomei. He's Be'ikar Mechadish Dem Etzem Inyan. Mainly, he's coming up with this idea itself. As Meis Atzmi is not Tomei, the Meis doesn't become Tomei. When there is Mitame Andere, no Gzeres HaKosuv. Why does he Mitame others? The Torah says, a Meis touches, it becomes Tomei. Kinal, as we said before. For them is B'meila movement. We also understand. As by Achai, the living thing is Nitokin Ortes or Matamazam Tzagzer Sakosov. So there is no room for it to come up. Why should he be Matame? It's only Xer Sakosov by a mace. But the Norkum, the Limud V'chidush, then comes the Limud and novelty. As Negeh b'meis Tomei, Ve'im B'no Shel Shunamis Tomei. We're saying that the Ben itself is not Tomei. But there is need the Raif to as there is need metame andere lachrish choy that he won't be metame others. As evi ameis, which is metayr. Those veisman from Freer Canal that are living does not metame. Nor as Alain is need Tomei geworden. Mach was the negi in sein Guf that he didn't become Tomei because he touched his own body. B'shas atchiyah, the time that he was resurrected. But like them is moving with pashtus, so let him us up. We're learning this from negeya b'meis. So we're talking about Negei b'meis because he touched b'meis. Negei b'meis, or you do that gosh, Negei b'meis, and not the B'no Shel Shunamis who touched himself. Aderech vi in the Friediken limud Negei b'meis Tomei is Atzmi Tomei. That just touching the mace, but the mace itself is not Tomei. Nit in them Loshen mace mitzad Atzmi Kanal, but we're not mace mitzad because there's no Chiddush over there. The Chiddush is in the Negeya that he didn't Negeya and a tumah that would make him Tomei. Das is euch the Hasbor in them. This is also explains the fact was in the dritter Shailom they gefragt. The third question they asked, Meisim lost love it do they need in the future? Why did they change to ask about the Meisim lost love and not about the Ben Hashunamis that they were talking about before? Was them nicht gefragt oder die Shaila wegen Azoi bei Ben Hashunamis Gufe. The Eirubei that they were asked first by the Ben Hashunamis. So Matame they should ask whether it's going to need the Ben Hashunamis himself is going to need Azoi. Shlivi Shiu Shvi. Or in the Shaila Benegei Lazo is doch given machmas dem was noch ba'atzman. What was the question with regards to the mace to the Baitchis HaMeisim is because they touch themselves. Nit als tumas mace atzme kenabruch. We're not dealing with as a tumas mace themselves, but it's because they're touching themselves, the new part to the old part. Und der Chash said negi ba'atzme shach no mace loslov. This can only be by the mace in the future. Mitzad the negi from chai ba'atzme. Because in the touching of the living, when he's resurrected, in Chelek Hanisha from Guf HaMeis, in the part that was left from the dead part of the body, Mashenki ba Ben Hashunamis, as opposed to Ben Hashunamis, is Pshitaleid Leboy Hazor. Over there, it's obviously that you wouldn't need Hazor over there, Kolosh Natoisvis, because for the Guf of Ben Hashunamis is nicht Nishtana geworden. There was no change in the body. When he's geblieben himself in Eifem Betzir, call his mom. It's remained all the time. Say a little bit in a different style. But Ben Shunamis is the Tchiyah man. By Ben Shunamis, the resurrection, not in a way like by the future, the dead will be resurrected. Part of the body has been corrected and built. This became a turnaround, a totally new existence. It became a new existence, a living Ashtat Metzias Meis. Especially as mentioned earlier by Ben Shunamis, is Nafshali L'Shavei. He didn't get his soul back. He got Elisha's soul. So there's a new existence over here. So this whole idea by the Ben Shunamis that there should be a Maga B'Meis because Negei B'Atzmei doesn't apply in this case. And that's why the question is only by the Mesim Midbar where there is the Tchiyas HaMesim, whether it applies there, Negei B'Atzmei, doesn't make him Tamei. Ois Tazayin. Oidya Shloimar, Akoponim B'Kitzer, you can say further, at least in a B'Kitzer, and also this will sweeten Vos Faranch Alexandria Davke. Why is it specifically the Alexandria is given Negeya the piece of the Dry Shilas? They needed the resolution of these three questions. The Rebbe will explain, we'll see step by step how each one of these questions, whether it remains. But why Alexandria? Alexandria is Mitzrayim. It says about the city that you should not return to Mitzrayim, Alexandria, that's part of the Isur. So Mela, the people answer Alexandria. So what's the svara to know whether you need whether you become Tomeh? Yes, let me the svara is given. So they came there only as a temporary, not to settle there. At the end, they stayed and they did not go out over there. They settled in there. Is aslinon bosra matzavinoni. So we go by the original. The intent. The intent was not to stay there. So what happens is not so important. On the bitter hadavar to verify it, whether we can actually say that if they ask these three questions, can we go by the past situation? First, they started with the Eishes Loit. The wife of Loit, Chotshafila Soifen Netziv Melech, changed to Netziv Melech. Maybe she could still be Metame. Aber Tchilosi is the Chodom. She started as a human. Maybe, even though she turned, but maybe we go by the beginning. Akoponim Ben Shunamis. At least Ben Shunamis should be, because there's Zelber Guf. Over there, it's the same body. Akoponim B'Tchis HaMeisim. Was the Zelber Neshama, the same soul canal. Yitzar Chazo. V'baldas B'Tchila Noidlu Midem Tzivui. They need Azor because they had the command as Odom Kiyamus. And they gave it Avzaim Vizubiyah Mashlish B'Mashvi. The one who touches should be sprinkled and then turned in the seventh day. So maybe it stays that way. All Yidden have a portion of the world to come. Everybody will get up, souls and bodies. Still we can say, that through the occupation of Torah nowadays, that when they darfen will not need the sprinkling until the future to come. Even though by everybody remains that bone of luz. So it's touching in a tummy. Because as our sage of blessed memory say, anybody who uses the light of Torah vitalizes him. The language is that the dew of the Torah gives life. When the resurrection is through the light of Torah and the dew of Torah, is those gufa metayr b'shas atchiyah. That alone cleans at the time of tchiyah. This is Mesichas Chavdala Tevis Tovshin Yud Aleph.